What's up YouTube, capital G here. This is something that I never ever thought in a million years of me playing Yu-Gi-Oh! I would say KURIBOH might actually be broken because of Master Rule 4. You guys know, and I know, that Master Rule 4 has just empowered so many decks to do some ridiculously derpy plays, and what you guys are about to witness is another one. And this is not even going to be any type of shenanigans where you have to like super link spam or anything like that. It just happens to be one super obscure play that is actually amazing, and when you pull it off, your opponent they basically auto lose. You take away every single card in their hand, and they're only going to have one card, which is their draw phase if they're going second. It's actually ridiculous. Even if you go second, you actually nuke your opponent's entire board, so it's pretty disgusting going first or second. And at first when I saw this, I was like, oh, okay, it's just going to be kind of a traditional link spam play, which, you know, usually starts with Armageddon Malicious. I've said it once and I'll say it again. I do not believe that this card is going to end the Reigns era at 3. I actually feel like Armageddon Knight might end up going to 1 and Malicious might end up getting hit as well. But, you know, usually this goes into I sold the one card I sold off Armageddon Knights. And this is kind of like all standard stuff. I've started seeing Hero Kid being played in these decks as of recent because you can drop Bamboo Swords in the graveyard. Unfortunately, he did draw one of his Hero Kids, but usually you get this like special summon 3 copies of Hero Kid and you have like 4 monsters on board, plus you get a bunch of Bamboo Swords or Divine. Like, it ends up being just a ton of advantage. I'm surprised that this hasn't even crossed over to competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Going into Summon Sorceress is also very basic, but this is where things are going to get different, right? And I know you guys are like, Cap G, it's just another Firewall link spam play. We've seen this a billion times. Just trust me, you haven't seen this. Firewall is going to be summoned, but it's immediately going to be traded in for Security Dragon, the significantly worse version of Firewall Dragon. Now, at this point of the video, most of you guys are like, yo, Cap G, this guy is either trolling or he's drunk. Get this scrub off of our screen, but I promise you, there is a method to the madness, because that's what I thought at first. I was like, wait. Who in the fucking world gives up a Firewall Dragon and another monster for a Security Dragon? But you actually need to do that. You have to reduce the number of monsters in your main monster zone. That doesn't make sense right now, but believe me, it's going to make sense. So he's going to activate Flute of the Summoning KURIBOH. That gets him the little KURIBOH on field, and this is why you had to make sure that you had no monsters in your regular monster zone. When you activate Multiply, you guys remember this from Kaiba versus Yugi on the tower, the duel with, you know, I'll jump off this building or whatever. This is the card that actually gets you a ton of tokens. You special summon as many tokens as possible. I think they're like KURIBOH tokens or something like that, at the cost of tributing your KURIBOH. So this is why you couldn't have had those monsters on the board. You want to make sure that you can potentially summon 5 of them. Now, some of you guys are like, oh, Cap, well, this is where it's going to become link spam. I get it. It's basically similar to, you know, Galaxy Tomahawk and how you make tokens with that and then you link spam. Although I was like, maybe that's not the angle here, because Firewall Dragon's already in the graveyard. So it wouldn't make sense to link spam now if you've already used the biggest catalyst for link spamming and it's in your graveyard. So here's basically what's going to happen. You activate this card, Law of the Normal. Oh my God, this is such a troll card, and this card essentially wins you the duel. It says you can only activate this card if there are 5 or more level 2 or lower monsters on your side of the field. Both players discard all cards in their hand and destroy all cards on the field except those level 2 normal monsters. This is why you had to have it. You had to have every single one of those tokens. You couldn't have any other monsters in your main monster zone for this to work. Your opponent loses everything. Now, you do lose your hand, but it doesn't matter because you still have 5 tokens, which means you can actually still do stuff. And these are dark tokens, although I don't really think that would really matter. Like, that's not going to matter because we have the attribute link monsters for all the attributes at this point. So now you can still go for some pretty decent plays. Maybe, well, would you go for a Borrowsword Dragon? Maybe that would be the best play, but he's actually just going to end with Witchling's Apprentice, KURIBOH, or Link KURIBOH, and then Link Spider. It's a decent board. At this point, your opponent is top decking, and this is why I say that there's not going to be much options for your opponent to actually win. Now, he's going to do a play that it kind of makes sense, but it also kind of doesn't. I thought he would just summon Armageddon Knight and just go like straight beatdown mode, but he goes into Nightmare Phoenix and pops the face down card. The reason that I said that I didn't think that made that much sense is when you actually discard your opponent's entire hand, you know what deck they're playing because you can look at the graveyard and you can see all their cards in the grave. So you should have a general idea of if their deck is a good top decking deck. And since nobody plays battle traps, I feel like he could have just summoned the Armageddon Knights and honestly just went beatdown mode, maybe made a Boil Dragon, Boil Sword Dragon, or whatever. But your opponent's still going to be top decking. Chances are that face down that they set wasn't going to be a legitimate chainable card, and he gets Gateway of the Six as his next top deck. He's not going to be able to win. He is going to go for some style points here, summons the Kuriboh. He doesn't need to do this because his opponent is only at 3,200 life points. This is a small misplay, and I used to make this misplay a couple of times with Ultra, guys. If you do happen to have a level 1 monster on field and you have a Link Kuriboh in the graveyard, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to tag out your level 1 on field for Link Kuriboh in battle phase. That way you get to attack with this monster and you get to attack with the Link Kuriboh. He just does it immediately, so he ended up giving up some damage that he didn't need to give up. Now, it doesn't really matter because he has, he has game on board already, but if it was like Ultra, guys, you want to attack with the Miluseek first, and then during the battle phase, you want to tag out for the Link Kuriboh and still get that extra, damage, and you want to make sure that you maximize your damage at all times, but kind of irrelevant. So, I'm sure most of you guys want to see this Savage Kuriboh deck, and I, of course, am going to help you out with that. So this is what the deck looks like on paper, and even though some people might say that this is not a real Kuriboh deck because there's only one Kuriboh in there, I think that we can all agree at the very least this is a Kuriboh focused deck, because that is basically the play you're trying to get to. You're trying to meet the condition of Law of the Normal, activate this card, and just blow your opponent out of the water. If you go second and your opponent doesn't have anything reactive to stop what you're going to do, you can just take away all their resources going second, but going first, it's obviously way more potent. You're only really running the regular Kuriboh, and then everything else is just, it's like a real good engine of dark monsters and warriors and heroes and good stuff like that that can either get you to Isolde very easily. We know Isolde is just ridiculous, and then you just kind of, go to summon Sorceress and do all the shenanigans with that. But, I said multiple times, Armageddon Knight will eventually be at 1. It's because of just engines and plays like this that I really don't think that it's healthy to keep Armageddon Knight at 1, because it is a 1 card Isolde, and every deck that just Isolde has made warriors so good, it's actually ridiculous like how much this card has done for like the not noble knights, but warriors in general. So you're going to run Armageddon Knight, you're going to run Malicious Vision Hero Vion. You're also going to use 3 copies of Hero Kid. Usually you want to just summon it straight from the deck with Isolde, and hopefully you don't draw one as, the player did actually in the duel. If you don't draw one, then you get 3 monsters on board, which is ridiculous. The Summoner Monk is in here because it's a dark card, and it gets you Armageddon Knight straight from the deck so that you can go straight into the Isolde. You're running your copies of Allure of Darkness in case you happen to open with double Monk, or in case you happen to open with, I don't know, like 2 Armageddon Knights or Armageddon Knight and Monk. You're obviously not going to need both of them. You only need 1 Kuriboh to actually do this whole pop-off play. You're running Card by the Grave because this is another like first turn cheese deck. You want to make sure you don't get Ash Blossomed, or your opponent doesn't, I don't know, randomly, like Winter Cherries. I call Isolde because they're like, wait a minute, you normal summoned Armageddon Knight and got Malicious on board. You must be setting up for an Isolde play. I'm going to Winter Cherries that, which I play it for Gokis anyways, and you guys are both basically reliant on this, this 1 card. Because you're running Isolde, and it's kind of like the hardened engine of, well, basically everything in Yu-Gi-Oh right now, means you got to run a bunch of equip spells. So you're going to run the bamboo cards. With the bamboo cards, the Cursed Bamboo Sword, the broken card, that means you get the golden bamboo sword as well. Then you're running some other just like search cards, 1 for 1 because Kuriboh is a level 1, and you also have reinforcements of the army, which is another search. And the interesting thing about this is you don't even have to go the full Link route to pull this off. You could just open with 1 for 1. You can get your Kuriboh on board. You can activate your multiply, and then you can go Law of the Normal. So you don't even have to do all the Link summoning shenanigans. You just, you'd have to open with like those specific cards, and it might not be that easy considering that 1 for 1 is limited. And if you don't have 1 for 1, it's basically not going to happen. Well, I guess if you open with Kuriboh, you could just also normal summon it, but there are multiple ways of getting to Law of the Normal. You just have to have like Law of the Normal, Kuriboh, and Multiply. And again, there are multiple ways of getting the Kuriboh actually from your deck, like 1 for 1. So you don't have to just rely on all the fancy shenanigans of Link summoning. This is just, it just makes it honestly much more consistent, because, cards like Saryuja Skull Dread let you dig into your deck, which I'm actually surprised that there is no Saryuja Skull Dread in here. I would think something like, I don't know, there are certain cards in here that I don't even really know. Well, I mean, do you really need need Borreload Dragon and Boral Sword, I would probably drop one of those. Like, I think I would probably just drop Borreload Dragon completely and probably throw in Saryuja Skull Dread, because off of the Summon Sorceress play, you can kind of summon it, and you do have to consolidate all your monsters to make sure that you open up that extra monster zone, which, you know, Saryuja Skull Dread is one of those cards that incorporates that. You generally want to give 4 monsters with different names to summon it so that you can fix your hand and so that you can get everything rolling. But this is just an interesting deck, and I never thought of Law the Normal with Kuribohs, but I guess you learn something new every day.